Thank you. Band of Pilgrims, that was wonderful. Great energy. So, good morning again. I'm really glad to be here with you all. So, I'm guessing that every adult here, and everywhere maybe, who's traveled on a road trip with a child is very familiar with a certain question. A question that may be repeated many times during road trips, whether long trips or even relatively short. This question, in my experience, enters the mind of the adult who is driving maybe even more often than it escapes the lips of the child who is repeating that. And what is it? Are we there yet? The dreaded question. The inevitable question that seems to be guaranteed to play on repeat during every road trip. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Is your anxiety starting to rise just hearing that? As the adult in the car, our solemn task is to remain calm, to offer comfort, perhaps some form of distraction, food, candy, a game, to the child who is so desperate to arrive at the destination. My family has been on many cross-country trips over the years. Most of you know that my husband is a chaplain in the Navy, so we move around quite a bit. We seem to get bounced back and forth from shore to shore, which is a great adventure for us. But as you may know, long car trips with kids are challenging. And are we there yet is a question that I've heard while traveling many, many times. I remember one road trip when I thought we might never get there. We ambitiously or insanely took a 16-hour driving trip from Connecticut to Tennessee at Christmas. And we did it all in one day. And when we were finally away from our destination, our car got a flat tire. So we had to unload all of the suitcases and gifts and put them on the side of the highway and put the spare tire on and drive painfully slowly for that final stretch of our journey. We know that life is about the journey, not the destination. But sometimes, on some journeys, we are really, really eager to reach our destination. In 1914, 28 men joined Ernest Shackleton on the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. Their goal was to sail from South America and then reach and cross the width of Antarctica. These men were far more interested in their pioneering destination than they were the roundabout journey they ended up taking. Before they reached the location where they intended to unload their gear, their ship became stuck in the ice floes. Shackleton wrote that when the ship got stuck, one of the surgeons calmly stated that they must wait out the winter and be prepared for the challenges they faced. They waited for months, hoping the ship would break free. But the ice that surrounded and trapped the ship eventually crushed it, and it sank. And the crew had already abandoned the ship and had set up camp out on the ice. So when the ship sank, Shackleton ordered that they would leave and cross the vast wilderness by foot. They only made it about 7.5 miles in 7 days before they had to stop and set up camp again and wait for the ice to break up so they could continue their journey in small boats. When they first set out across that ice, not even knowing if they would return to civilization, Shackleton ripped out 2 pages from his Bible, and he carried them in his pocket. A passage from Job and Psalm 23, to carry with him to remind him that he was not alone. No matter how long and cold and scary their journey was, God was with them. Fittingly, the name of the ship that carried the crew to Antarctica was called the Endurance. The crew had to shift their goals and expectations of the trip from research and being the first to cross Antarctica to simply surviving. The entire crew of the Endurance survived their 2-year journey. And the expedition has become rightly known as an epic feat of endurance. Our reading this morning came from the book of Romans. Scholars think that Paul wrote it around 57 CE. Throughout Paul's life, he traveled on long journeys around many countries to share the good news of Jesus. We know that his travels were not easy. We know that his life was not easy. Paul wrote that he was shipwrecked 3 times, he was beaten, he was stoned, but not the recreational kind of stoned. He was imprisoned, bitten by a snake, hungry and cold. He had a hard life. He knew adversity, and he displayed endurance, and he practiced patience. He faced many trials and hardships, but through them all, he remained convinced that God walked with him. And like Paul 2,000 years ago, like the crew of the Endurance over 100 years ago, we too find ourselves in a wilderness. We too find ourselves faced with difficulties and trials. After 17 months, we still find ourselves in a pandemic. We're still wearing masks. We keep wondering, are we there yet? Are the cases low enough? Is our collective immunity high enough that we can resume living our daily lives like we did before the pandemic? How long is this journey? We made it 16 months and we were getting hopeful. And then the Delta variant entered the scene like a flat tire an hour from our journey, our destination. Are we there yet? Each time we pretend the disease is a thing of the past, we get ahead of ourselves. We lower our guard, and we find that we're not there yet. Many of us have lost friends or family members to COVID-19. Many are struggling with division in our family or our friend groups because of differences in the way we see and understand freedom and autonomy in the world. This pandemic has been lonely and isolating, and our sense of community is hard to maintain. I thought we would be back to normal by now, whatever normal is. But we must remain vigilant and do our part to help stop the spread of the virus that has killed so many. And like the surgeon calmly stated, when the Endurance became stuck in the ice, we must be prepared to wait and be prepared for the challenges that face us. Facing challenges alone can be daunting and overwhelming. That's one of the many reasons I think the church has so much to offer. A community to provide support during the inevitable challenges in life. I think that people come to church for different reasons. To experience God's presence, to learn, to grow, to gather as a community, to do the important work that is so needed in our world. Ideally, the church is a place where one can be welcomed, find love and hope, and be challenged to grow, and join with others to serve and bring light and hope to a world that so desperately needs it. We are all on our own individual journeys, yet we are all connected. And in our lives, we experience seasons of beauty and joy, and we experience seasons of hardship and struggle. Our connections and our relationships with each other are a reminder that we are not alone. Our faith reminds us that God walks with us in times of joy and in times of struggle. Paul wrote about this over and over in his letters. To journey from point A to point B sounds simple and straightforward when you're planning it. But journeys aren't often that easy. We start out with a good plan and we think we have everything mapped out, but then something goes wrong, or some things go wrong. Or life surprises us, or takes a turn, or passes by before we were quite ready. John Lennon said that life is what happens to us when we're busy making other plans. There are flat tires and whiny kids, and sometimes we get lost for a little bit before finding our way back again. There are lost jobs, financial struggles, illness, the loss of loved ones, and my belief is that God is with us even in our darkest times. Are we there yet? Well, what is there? What does there look like? And if we can't get there, what does it look like to be a little closer? Maybe it looks like the end of COVID-19, with hugs and concerts and indoor parties, no more masks. And maybe if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, maybe there looks like peace. Maybe there looks like justice and equality, like inclusion and love and fairness and life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness for everybody, not just white people, not just rich people, not just straight people, not just Americans, not just Christians, everybody. So are we there yet? No. We have work to do. But here's the good news, and there is good news. We are in this together, and God is with us on this journey. And I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things past, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will ever separate us from God's love. God's love is not something we need to earn or win or do better or be better in order to receive. It's here. It's now. It's with us, and it is for everybody. There is hope in God's love. And here at Pilgrim, we are in this community together because of our shared understanding of God's love and because of our commitment to make a difference in the world. And because we know that this message of good news needs to be shared. Because there is so much work to be done. And so we continue together on this journey, whether we are here in the building, or on Zoom, or on Facebook, or on YouTube, we are together. There is power and support and comfort when we gather together as a community. Now, let's get to work. Let the people of God say, Amen.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice. The sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of People, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one